What's the most evil company? What's our guess? BlackRock. BlackRock, an airline company, maybe a fast food, or like a Nestle, like selling water, but also having like, what else did Nestle do? They own a shit.
The world's most evil companies are hiding in plain sight. Some build
Bro said Pfizer.
their empire
Those damn COVID vaccines.
with child slaves. Others are watching you as we speak, and one is literally in your blood. But don't worry.
Pfizer. Oh shit, maybe. Uh-oh.
Because in this video,
Uh-oh.
you'll see
What? Wait, what? I thought that was a joke.
what the worst of these organizations have been doing behind the scenes, all to find out what is the most evil
I told you, Chud. Okay, shut up.
company. Starting with the largest athletic brand in the world.
Yeah, Nike's crazy, bro. Nike's wild. Dude, all these name brand companies that get, like, child labor to produce... I don't people always say it's not even just Nike. It's like most shoe brands. Like, if you wear shoes, no matter how, like, moral of an individual you try to be, you're wearing clothing that was made in, like, a sweatshop. Like, the odds are that you wear or use something that was made in immoral ways. I never wear shoes. You have a phone. You're watching me on a piece of technology that was probably put together using some form of underpaid labor.
Nike, in the 1970s, started making use of factories in Asia where workers were paid 14 cents an hour,
Holy shit.
exposed to incredibly toxic fumes and physically and verbally abused. Nike initially brushed off these issues until
Dude, what recent brand was it? Nike? What recent brand was it where, like, they had footage of the factory workers, like, basically stitching here, and then they don't go home? Like, they'd stitch their shit here, eat here, and then they'd lay down, like, a mat and sleep in the factory. Was that Temu? No. Sheen? It might have been Sheen. I don't think it was Temu. I think it was a clothing company.
a 4K image of a 12-year-old Pakistani boy sewing Nike soccer balls sparked public outrage. Facing a tanking reputation, Nike apologized and announced they would be fixing their labor practices, but to this day, they still just haven't stopped doing it. But
My genuine question is what is the statistical difference monetarily? Like, because the company has to be, money motivated to do this. Is it that much cheaper to get humans to, like, hand-stitch clothing and shoes versus just getting, like, a machine to do it? I feel like a machine would be so much more efficient at, like, stitching shoes or clothing. It's probably just, like, you get 100 people, and that outworks, 3 machines.
so little slave labor really that bad compared to companies who have killed millions, caused drug crises, and even tried to destroy the planet? So to find the most evil
Yeah, it's kind of hard to, like, weigh what company's the worst because they all, like, what level of shit they're doing is in different categories.
Let's get even worse, with a brand you've probably drank before. In 1886, an American Civil War veteran was looking to find a substitute for his morphine addiction, so he mixed together cocaine, caffeine, and sugar syrup into a drink he called
Dude, I wish I could have the original Coca-Cola just to see. I'm not saying I want to do Coke that bad, but, like, what is the original? You know what I'm saying? Like, dude, the people that actually just drank Coca-Cola, that was just a drug. It wasn't even like just a caffeinated drink, like caffeine, cocaine, and sugar just mixed in a fucking cup, sipping that down.
syrup into a drink he called Coca-Cola. It was marketed as a cure for headaches and fatigue. It definitely
Well, didn't soda was originally given to you at, like, doctors or, like, dentist offices, right? It used to not be just, like, a casual drink. Like, soda now is something that you just kind of have, like, with dinner or, like, you're at a restaurant or some shit.
But sadly, in 1904, facing public and regulatory pressure, Coke had to stop using actual Coke in their formula, and human productivity has never recovered. But as health sciences improved in the 1960s, Coke had a bigger problem. How do you get a health-conscious world to buy canned diabetes? Well, if you're Coke, the answer is
Create the modern depiction of Santa Claus.
spend millions of dollars funding corrupt health organizations to push the narrative that obesity is just caused by a lack of exercise.
Oh, Really? Yeah, no, Coca-Cola is one of the biggest. Like, when you think of Santa Claus, you think of the Coca-Cola's depiction of Santa Claus from, like, 60 years ago. Like, every time. When you think of, like, a fat guy with, like, a beard and rosy cheeks, Coke did that. Santa Claus, Coca-Cola, 1931. They made you think that this is what Santa Claus is. The polar bear, too? Well, yeah, but they made you think they created the design of the polar bear? What are you talking about? Are you saying, like, they associated the polar bear with Christmas? Are you saying the polar bear? Are you saying like they invented the polar bear?
Be against dietary guidelines and sugar taxes, then sponsor the Olympics and professional athletes to subconsciously make your products appear more healthy. Tell the world you don't advertise to children, then popularize Santa Claus with your marketing and put vending machines in elementary schools. Then to
I still don't think Coca-Cola's marketing is as good as Red Bull's. I know Coke's is like really like fucked and they're everywhere, but like, dude, Red Bull made it a staple. Red Bull made itself a staple drink that's mixed with alcohol. Every bar sells Red Bull. Every athlete is sponsored by Red Bull. Everything, like, Red Bull is just made itself like this household name. I know Coca-Cola is more known than Red Bull, but Coca-Cola is also like something that's widely drank among a larger age range as well. And over the world.
boost your profits, outsource to bottling plants that assassinate union members and drain entire towns' water supplies. Coca-Cola's devious tactics have made them the largest beverage.
Red Bull tastes better, though? No, OG Red Bull tastes like actual shit. I think the OG Red Bull is disgusting. I love, like, a watermelon Red Bull or something like that. But, like, OG Red Bull's gross. Actually gross.
Brand on the planet, giving out 2 billion servings a day, and human arteries have never recovered.
But you know what's better than Red Bull? Gamer subs. Code BART.
But this next company kills you a lot faster than sugar. Boeing. When developing this
Damn. What, where they were cutting costs or some shit with, like, their plane manufacturing and then they were getting sued for that?
737 MAX realized the plane would tilt upward during takeoff, so they used a software called MCAS to automatically push the tilting plane back down. But adding this system would require extra pilot training, which would be expensive and time-consuming. So to avoid all that, Boeing didn't tell anyone about it, including the pilots.
It's still a mystery tonight what caused this brand new plane to crash into the ocean.
The pilots of Lion Air Flight 610 fought a tug-of-war battle with the plane's computer, finally
Have you ever seen what being a pilot's like from the cockpit in the air? Terrifying. Terrifying. Point of view pilot during turbulence. Like people tweaking during turbulence, and then this is what they see. Just fucking, dude, just literally flying into the fucking clouds, man. Just being like... I know they're not nervous because they can rely on the technology and everything, and they've probably done it 1,000 times, but I would be fucking freaking out.
losing the battle as the plane slammed into the ocean at 450 miles per hour.
After the crash of Lion Air Flight 610, the regulators conducted a risk assessment that estimated there would be 15 more 737 MAX crashes if MCAS wasn't fixed. They didn't release this report. Instead, they sent out a brief memo to pilots with no mention of MCAS and kept the planes in the air. 5 months later, another 737 MAX crashed in the exact same way. The planes were then banned from flying, and Boeing had 346 deaths on their hands. Their market value dropped by 25%. They were fined $2.5 billion for damages and fraud. Their CEO got fired, of course with a little parting gift, and Boeing...
Bro, I hate that shit. I hate that shit. They're like, oh, I'm so sorry. And then they get $100 million and they just quit. Like, he's just gonna retire, you know? Departs with $62 million.
Little parting gift. And Boeing promised a new commitment.
But there's nothing you can do with companies that big. Because, like, Boeing's, like, the main plane manufacturer for every company.
To safety. By 2020, the 737 MAX was back in the skies. And 4 years later, a door blew off. Luckily, no one was sitting by the door, so there were no fatalities, with the exception of Boeing's reputation.
Dude, imagine being that guy. Door flies off. Your chair's halfway hanging out of the fucking plane. I know nobody was sitting there, but that would be terrifying.
Their promise of a new commitment to safety fell apart when investigations found the door had been installed with no bolts. Boeing's horrendous quality control, like using Dawn dish soap as lubricant, hotel key cards to check seals, and scrapped parts as replacements on real air.
Yo, and I know, I always see videos of them duct taping shit, and I know it's like really expensive duct tape, and it's not, it's like plain tape, and it's like speed seal shit. But whenever I see somebody like on the wing of a plane duct taping, I'm like, this doesn't feel right. This shouldn't. Are we flex taping the plane wing together? Like, I don't understand.
Aircrafts began getting exposed by whistleblower after whistleblower, a suspicious amount of whom are now dead. Huh. The whole reason Boeing cut corners was to try and make more money.
I know a guy, number one, I gotta say this, not suicidal. Number two, I know a guy that responded to the call of one of those guys dying.
To beat their main competitor. They ended up killing hundreds of people, losing billions of dollars, and getting beaten by that competitor. So Boeing screwed themselves in every possible way, except for their doors. But let's get even more evil with a company that just might play a role in your entire life.
This is probably Nestle.
You're
Gerber?
born, and your first meal is a bottle of baby formula. As a kid, your favorite treats become Kit Kats and Crunch Bars. At home, you eat Hot Pockets.
Dude, I remember when I started bulking for the first time, I had an argument with my teacher, and I was like, yeah, it's just macros. I was eating an entire king-size Kit Kat bar, and they were like, why are you doing that? I was like, I need the calories. And they were like, that's not going to make you muscular. I was like, yeah, it is.
And drink
I would just eat anything, bro. I would just be like, yeah, I just need to get the calories in.
Poland Spring, or Pure Life, or Pellegrino, depending on your parents' socioeconomic status.
Yeah, bro, I hate how, like, one company owns multiple different brands that are, like, competing. So it gives you a sense of, like, option when in reality they're all owned by the same exact fucking person.
As you get older and find your first job, you survive.
Pellegrino is, like, rich people water. Who the fuck drink? I drink Poland Spring. That's bullshit. That or Walmart water. I'm drinking Walmart water or Poland Spring.
As you get older and find your first job, you survive off instant coffee.
Fiji. Bro, I hate people that drink Fiji water. Square bottle. Thinking you're all fucking better than everybody. I just drink. Do you have any Fiji? Like, I'd rather you ask for Voss. I'd rather you ask for a fucking glass bottle of Voss. We drink Fiji water in this house. Oh, do you also have somebody wipe your ass for you, you fucking cuck?
On your deathbed, you get your choice of feeding tube mixes. Nutrin, Complete, Peptamen.
Dasani. I don't know anybody that willingly buys. Dude, the only places you're buying Dasani, the zoo, an airport. An airport is the only place I'm buying Gatorade water. That's actually the only place. At every airport, I get Gatorade water. Dasani you're getting at, like, the zoo, maybe, like, Six Flags, Disney, you know, somewhere where it's like, for some reason, that's the only water brand they have.
And then you die, and Nestlé loses a lifetime customer. Nestlé is the world's biggest alleged food company, and they're well known for being comedically evil. You might have heard of their
Yeah, when you think of Nestle, though, you always think of that fucking chocolate powder with that fuck-ass rabbit.
Evil. You might have heard of their extensive use of child labor. In 2001, the US tried to fight back against this by making a law that required slave labor labeling on chocolate wrappers. But Nestle and their cronies lobbied it out of existence. They instead pinky promised to phase out child labor by 2000.
Yo, lobbying? Isn't there only one part in the entire world where, like, lobbying's illegal, and it's, like, somewhere in southern Australia? I think, like, lobbying in general, what is lobbying? Companies paying politicians to get what they want, effectively. It's like donations to a party, but it's effectively, like, money to incentivize. Where in Australia is lobbying not legal? As of July 1st, 2025, South Australia implemented a ban preventing political parties, candidates, MPs from accepting donations from lobbyists, businesses, and unions. That's what you need, bro. Because once you start paying a guy, it's like, okay, that's not actually what he thinks.
They delayed it to 2008, then 2010, Then 2020, they'll get to it one day. You might have heard of Nestle draining water from water-struggling communities using cheaper expired permits, then selling it back to them in overpriced plastic. But Nestle's most evil tactic began in the 1970s. In order to expand the market for their baby formula, they sent saleswomen dressed as nurses to developing countries to promote the product as a superior alternative to old-fashioned breast milk. Not only was this not true, but formula has to be mixed with water, and Nestle was promoting in places where water was contaminated. Nestle targeted these families with free samples that lasted just long enough for the mother to lose her ability to produce breast milk, leaving her no choice but to continue buying the formula. What resulted was a massive amount of breastfed babies switching to formula and getting sick. It's estimated.
Isn't it like really good to breastfeed your baby too? Aren't like breastfed babies smarter on average than, that's like a fact, right? Like breastfed babies have like a higher IQ than like Nestle babies. What IQ different? You know how I learned that? From The Interview. No, not The Interview. What's the internship? Because I watched, that's how I learned that. The Internship with Owen Wilson and Vince Vaughn. Because the guy in the movie goes, well, I'm smarter because I was breastfed. And I was like, that can't be real. And I Googled it. Is your IQ higher if you're breastfed? Oh, it's only 2 to 4 points higher on average. Children who are breastfed for 12 months or higher have higher IQs, better educational attachment, and higher incomes at age 30. So that one kid from Grown Ups is probably like a super genius, right?
That Nestle's campaign caused over 10 million deaths, but something a lot stranger happened in China. In 2008, the Sanlu group secretly added a chemical called melamine to their baby formula to boost its protein count. This contaminated formula caused health problems for over 300,000 children in China, and 6 of them died. But unlike Nestle, the Sanlu executives faced criminal punishment. Some of them were sent to prison, but 2 of them were sentenced to death. After getting millions in compensation claims from victims, Sanlu declared bankruptcy and was fully dissolved. Nestle caused much more damage, but their alleged food company is still thriving. Nestle is a strong candidate.
What else do they own? Ralph Lauren? Or Ralph Lauren? Ralph Lauren, L'Oreal, Nestle, 30%. Nespresso, Coffee Mate, Nesquik, Gerber, Gobstoppers. Bottle caps. Ain't nobody buying those fuck-ass candies. Runts. The hell out of here. A goober bar.
Still thriving. Nestle is a strong candidate for the most evil company ever. But this next company is evil for a very different reason. After 9/11, the United States launched the biggest mass surveillance program in history. It was called Total Information Awareness, and it was made to collect and monitor everyone's private data with the goal of finding terrorists before they could act. But after public protest, it was shut down in 2003, and the US narrowly avoided becoming a dystopian surveillance state. A few months later, 2 guys founded Palantir.
Damn, you think there was a chance we would have had like social credit scores and shit?
One of those guys was PayPal billionaire Peter Thiel.
Peter Thiel knows about the Antichrist.
You would prefer the human race to endure, right?
The other guy was philosophy major Alex Karp.
I spent a lot of time talking to Nazis, like real Nazis.
After getting funding from the CIA, they would end up building Palantir into one of the most controversial companies ever.
Our product is used on occasion to kill people.
What? What?
So, what does Palantir actually do? Large companies, as well as countries, collect a lot of data on their customers.
Oh my god, is Palantir like a parent company that like processes this data and then sells it to other brands?
So much data that they can't make any sense of it. This is where Palantir comes in. They'll analyze all that data with AI and put it into one platform designed to help make actionable decisions. It's been used on everything, from helping allocate resources after disasters or during pandemics, to optimizing the Wendy's supply chain, to spying on employees at JP Morgan, to workplace deportations and predictive policing. But if you happen to have an all-powerful tool that will analyze an infinite amount of personal data, you could also
sell it to the Russians!
Use it
To scare enemies and on occasion kill them.
Put the fear of like death into our adversaries at any random moment.
Why do we wait till our enemies attack?
And they need to wake up scared and go to bed scared. Something really bad is going to happen to you and your friends and your cousins.
We'll go after your assets, we'll go after everything. We'll keep on going for generations.
Palantir's biggest market is war. In the US, they get paid billions of dollars to make the American warfighter fight the way they were born to fight. In Ukraine, they handed over the kill chain, a software that handles everything from finding a target to destroying it. With Israel, Palantir helps power the military's war machine. Their work is very secretive, but we do know that they're pretty good pals.
Your AI and your technology from Palantir kills Palestinians!
Mostly terrorists, that's true.
Palantir is just a tool. All it does is analyze other people's data. But the strength
Don't you think, like, how are motherfuckers, dude, I don't know, in, like, modern day, getting up on stage just saying shit like that, I'm like, yo, how are you not worried you're gonna get, like, assassinated? You know what I mean? Brian, like, what was his name? Brian Thompson, CEO, gets assassinated. You see all this other shit. I'm like, dude, you can't just be up on stage being like, yeah, well, our company does murder people, so. It just, like, casually.
This tool and how it can be used give it a concerning level of influence.
Our primary mission is, in fact, to set a global standard for the world for behavior.
Palantir pretty much.
Somebody said or canceled. That's different. He's not getting, dude, he's a fucking billionaire. Cancellation is a social media based thing. He owns a company.
Much markets itself as evil, but another company you would never expect.
Worried about being canceled. He has a fucking multi-billion-dollar contract with Israel and the United States.
Is even worse. In 1899, two banana businessmen merged together to form the United Fruit Company. Their first course of action was conquering Central America.
Oh my God, what's the name of the banana company? What's the name of the banana company that produces like the majority of the bananas in South America? I had to read it. I had to read something about this. Chiquita Banana. What did they do? Slave labor?
Land, built entire towns, and took control of infrastructure in places like Guatemala,
oh, Dole is another one.
Honduras, and Colombia in order to exploit their populations for banana production. These pimped out countries became known as banana republics. Conditions for workers obviously sucked, so in 1928, they went on strike with a list of demands. United Fruit refused to negotiate and instead went over to their boy, the United States, and they were like, we're in trouble. Our workers are revolting. They want us to pay them in money instead of coupons and get a 6-day work week instead of 7. Dang, we'd love to help you, but we're a bit.
That's like not even that crazy of demands. Hey, instead of working every day, could we have 1 day off? No.
Preoccupied with rich white people activities. So,
yo, actually seeing some of the dances from the Roaring Twenties pisses me off. Like the flapper dances where they go. And they move like that. Why do they move like that?
So if you'll excuse me. Wait! They're communists.
Wait, they killed a bunch of the workers? Oh my God.
After indirectly rampaging their own workers, the United Fruit Company did it again. But this time, they got the US to overthrow the Guatemalan government and replace the leader they didn't like with a dictator who assassinated a bunch of people. Then he got assassinated, and Guatemala went into a 36-year-long civil war that killed almost 200,000 people. Dang. We'd love.
I would say that's probably the worst thus far. I don't know if he's going in a scaling order, but Nestlé's was really bad. Palantir's really bad. I mean, a banana company literally caused an overthrow of a government, 36-year civil war, and hundreds of thousands of dead people.
To help them, but we're a bit preoccupied with bananas. United Fruit would later rebrand to Chiquita Banana, leaning into the friendlier theme to distract you from their country-destroying imperialism. Chiquita has generally stayed out of trouble, only doing small things here and there, like giving millions of dollars to paramilitary terrorist organizations. But banana companies aren't the only ones messing with entire countries. When Facebook went public in 2012, almost everyone with internet was already on their platform. They needed a new way to expand, and
dude, do you think Facebook dies off one day? I feel like newer generations aren't going to use it. I think there's going to be a pivot to Instagram, but I just wonder, because like Facebook's like a backbone for Meta, and it's how they get a lot of info and a lot of data, a lot of money. But I feel like Facebook in general it already did. Yeah, I know they pivot to Instagram now, and that's what they're like heavily focused on with Reels because they want to compete with TikTok. But it's just like, I don't see a use for Facebook anymore. It really, Facebook Marketplace, question mark, question mark, question mark. Yeah, Facebook Marketplace, where you could buy a fucking old PS4 for $25 with dust all in it from some sketchy guy, 9 miles away. Yeah, Facebook Marketplace is really gonna be the backbone to holding that fucking company up. No. Do they even make money on that? Facebook Marketplace, I feel like they probably get such a small percentage.
He started Internet.org, which would bring internet to developing countries through Facebook products. His new customer acquisition conquest began in Zambia, then the Philippines, India, Colombia, Myanmar. Wait, what? There's a problem in India. Like a serious problem. They're using Facebook to spread fake images claiming that Buddhists are massacring Muslims and it's leading to riots where people are dying. Oh no. Keep going. Expansion continued until Facebook had conquered 100 million new users. But this is where things started falling apart. See, Facebook's moderation technology didn't work properly with different languages, and their moderation teams were incredibly understaffed and clueless about local culture. This lack of oversight led to Facebook becoming a propaganda tool for dictators in places like the Philippines.
That's not even just in the Philippines and India, dude. Didn't that happen in the last election? Wasn't it proven that there were like Russian accounts that were like actually just propping up political propaganda about the United States and other countries during the election in 2020 and 2024 to like the average American? And then they were just like getting lied to from like some random account from another country.
Government accused Facebook of failing to control posts that contributed to deadly riots. Same.
I thought that they were getting sued less because of the fake news problem that they weren't shutting down, and more that Mark Zuckerberg and Meta were like selling people's data.
With Ethiopia. And in Myanmar, Facebook played a determining role in a genocide, according to the UN. Facebook themselves admit they didn't do enough to protect their foreign colonies. But the bigger problem is that their entire platform rewards the most harmful misinformation. And leaked documents show Zuck rejecting potential fixes to this problem because they would reduce user engagement.
Facebook has realized if they change the algorithm to be safer, they'll make less money.
Facebook claims their goal is to bring the world closer together, but reckless expansion and an engagement at all costs approach has in many cases brought the world further apart. But to answer the question of the most evil company, there's an entire sector we need to look at. Oil companies. Here's what they're up to. Shell ravaged the country of Nigeria by supporting violent militaries and introducing the population to flavored water. BP caused the biggest oil spill in US history when their rig exploded in the Gulf of Mexico. But the worst oil company.
Didn't BP also, British Petroleum historically that was like one of the videos I linked to my chat when we were talking about oil. BP originally founded itself by like scamming leaders in the Middle East to give them like bad deals on oil land. And then it started like this whole, not black pill. No, it's not black pill. It's British Petroleum. BP got its roots in the Middle East from giving like bad cuts. They would take like all the profits, lie about how much money they were making, and then giving the leaders in their countries less. So they were just like siphoning money out of countries.
When Rockefeller's Standard Oil got split into 34 pieces, a few of those pieces merged together to form Exxon, which later merged into ExxonMobil. They're now the biggest US-based oil company.
I still have the take that being Rockefeller, being like that turbo rich at that time was like the worst time to be the richest guy, Now you're Elon Musk, I'm not like supporting billionaires. Obviously, I've ranted about billionaires before, but I'm saying if you were a billionaire, being a billionaire now, awesome. Being a billionaire in the 1900s, also awesome. But like, you don't have electricity. You don't have, a lot of like, you don't have like modern goods. You have electricity. You don't have like refrigerators and shit like that. Like, you're just like, you're living in like older times. Like, when was Rockefeller had to be born in the 1800s? Yeah, 1839 to 1937. So, like, when he was in his 40s and he was, like, turbo rich in his 50s, like, what was he spending his money on? Women? I mean, he was, like, in his late 20s, early 30s for the Civil War? Brother was alive during slavery. Yeah, probably, like, drugs and then just, like, I'm going to look that up. What did Rockefeller spend his money on? Large-scale strategic philanthropy focusing on education, medical research, and public health. Okay, what else? Who's the dude that owned IKEA and died? Ingvar Kamprad, who like lived in a house that was like 100 grand when he was worth like $10 billion. And so many people are like, so commendable. I'm like, brother, that's like lame. Like, philanthropy is awesome, right? Like donating money and doing good things. I'm saying outside of that, like just hoarding, like people would be like, I respect the frugality. You know, he just wants to save. Save $10 billion. Save $10 billion. Go buy a yacht, you know? Fucking spend some money. Like, obviously donating the money. Yeah, if you want to donate all the money, do that and then have frugality. But like, what's the point of frugality if you're not donating the money? If you're not using the money and like, why? You know?
They of course have sketchy relations to overseas abuse, as well as their own historic oil spill, where they fought against paying out penalties for 14 years. But Exxon's greatest evil affects the entire planet, because back in the 70s, they conducted internal research that found burning fossil fuels was influencing the global climate in ways that would be potentially catastrophic and irreversible. Having a product that's actively cooking the earth is a big problem. For the marketing department, Exxon proceeded to spend millions of dollars in support of climate change denial. They funded science-denying front groups and bought an advertisement in the New York Times every week for 30 years to mislead people on the studies they themselves conducted. Exxon's early predictions of global warming ended up being more accurate than NASA's, but they weren't in the business of working towards a fix. Exxon's especially evil because they put the planet on the line, but so did another company.
Something wrong with this cow.
What the fuck?
And they keep trying to tell me there's nothing wrong with these things.
In 1998, a farmer in West Virginia noticed his animals dying from disturbing symptoms. This farmer happened to live near a landfill for the chemical company DuPont. He hired a lawyer who took legal action against the company, demanding internal documents. They sent back 110,000 pages, just to be annoying. But the lawyer read through all of it, and what he found—
What? What? He read 110,000 pages of documents.
Was more disturbing than what anyone could have imagined. In 1938, a DuPont chemist accidentally—
That had to have taken years.
discovered an impossibly slippery substance. They called it Teflon, and they sold it to the world as a miracle nonstick coating. Soon, it was in nearly every kitchen in America.
Oh my god, wait, no, what was the company that helped make, Agent Orange? That's one of the most immoral companies as well.
In order to create Teflon, DuPont used another chemical called PFOA. This stuff doesn't naturally break down. It's pretty much indestructible. It's a forever chemical. DuPont was slightly concerned about this, so they began conducting internal studies. What they found was that PFOA would kill animals in a single dose, was linked to birth defects and cancer in humans, and was highly toxic. When these results were shown to the execs, they were like, "Dear God, we can't have our chemicals killing people. I know it's terrible. We need to—" I didn't finish my sentence. We can't have our chemicals killing people, getting in the way of our business. What? Don't release any of these studies publicly, and don't tell the regulators. We're making $1 billion a year in profit from this. It's too risky for us to stop. Plus, I think we'll be fine. I mean, it's not like we're dumping this stuff into the environment. DuPont was dumping so much of this stuff into the environment that they had lost track of how much they had dumped. They were doing all of this despite being clearly warned not to, and it was this dumping that killed the livestock in West Virginia, which resulted in the lawsuit that exposed everything. DuPont had to pay hundreds of millions of dollars in settlements, and they began phasing out these chemicals, but it was too late. 99% of people on Earth now have forever chemicals.
Because of this company?
Or PFAS in their blood, thanks to DuPont.
What? We all have fucking chemicals in our blood because of DuPont. I'm the 1%. No, you're not. If you live in the United States, dude, it's probably, you know who doesn't have forever chemicals in their blood? Icelandic people. People in Greenland. The fucking, the people, what's the island under Sri Lanka? North Sentinel Island. The North Sentinelese don't have forever chemicals.
DuPont and a few of their business pals. Most people have levels that are of lower concern, but millions—
Medium risk, 89% of people
have amounts that put them at a higher risk.
Wait. How do I get this shit out of my blood, bro? What do you mean? How are you getting this shit in your blood?
Of cancer and other complications.
What?
Forever chemicals are decreasing in use, but they remain.
Oh my God, the dots are all over New Jersey. I'm cooked. What the fuck? I can't even see the state. It's over. It's over. Why are they all over New Jersey, bro? It's everywhere. Why is that big of a concentration of dots right there?
A problem. And because so many
Brother, what? Oh my God.
remain a problem. And because so many regulators have ties to chemical companies like DuPont, they might be sticking around.
Yo, nah, I'm actually about to crash out. What the fuck, dude? In our drinking water?
But this next company also messes.
How does it get worse than that? How does it get worse than that? They've poisoned fucking the entire world. What?
With our health in a more evil way. Imagine there's a button. Every time you click it, you make $10,000, but a random person dies. What would you do? A normal person would get hesitant. A health insurance company would get an auto clicker. See, for United Healthcare, this isn't a random button. It's a denial button, and it's not hurting random people. It's hurting people who've been paying United thousands of dollars a year for insurance, under the promise that when they get sick, United will cover their expensive medical care.
Yeah, it's wild that we pay for insurance for a company to just potentially deny that.
Auto clicker also exists in real life. It's called
I have United. Oh, damn. Somebody put I have United heartbreak emoji.
Predict. It's an AI tool that automatically rejects people's requests for medical treatment with an alleged
90% error rate.
Error rate. Armed with this tool, United is infamous for its denials. The most cited number is that they deny 33% of treatment requests, but this was based on pretty incomplete data. United doesn't release their actual numbers, and they tell employees not to answer questions about their decision making, so we don't have much information. But we do know that 1 in 3 doctors have seen insurance delays lead to a serious adverse event, anything from hospitalization to death, with many doctors complaining specifically about United.
Bro, I hate insurance companies, man. Like, I don't want to get on this fucking like woke wave again where people are going to be like, oh, you're a fucking liberal idiot. But I'm like, bro, why are we paying a middleman for insurance that doesn't even actually help you when you need it? Like, we're paying into this insurance company, and then when you're actually like 80 years old and you're like, hey, my heart stopped, I need to get fucking surgery. No. No.
Life-threatening condition. You have insurance. It should be covered, period. Yep. And they are fighting it.
She now owes $100,000.
With technicalities. This is United Healthcare.
Apart from denying to do the one thing they promised to do, United also gives secret bonuses to try and keep patients out of hospitals, because each hospital visit costs them money. United claims this prevents unnecessary care, while whistleblowers say it puts elderly patients in danger. But United is much more than an insurance company. See, ever since 2011, insurers have.
Well, and you also, it's like, it's not even just with health insurance. It's like any insurance, they wager how like you are as a person and how many problems you're going to have. And then they change how much you have to pay because, like, for example, men have higher car insurance payments or premiums than women. Men are more likely to get into fatal car crashes. Like, women are more likely to get into fender benders that cost very little, so they're not worried about it. Men will get into it. Men will crash into it, wrap their car around a tree and total their fucking car in a high-speed collision. So you have to pay more. But the problem is, like, you pay more into an insurance agency if you have more health problems. Yet when you actually need to get help, they don't go, oh, well, you paid more to offset that. They just deny you. So you're paying more for nothing.
Been required by law to spend 85% of the money they collect from customers on their actual medical care. So United does actually pay out a majority of their revenue on treatment requests. But they're okay with this because
I feel like girls crash more though. Did you listen to what I just said, Lemon?
United is affiliated with 10% of all the doctors in the US, and their pharmacy company controls 20% of the market. So United collects insurance money, then pays it to their own medical care providers at inflated rates. But even more insane is that United also owns a company that supplies medical loans to doctors and patients. So if United denies to pay your medical bill and you have to go into debt to afford your treatment, they make money off that too. The healthcare system in the United States has a lot of problems, and the United Health Group makes money off all of them. But while United plays a part in a troubling industry, other companies create industries that harm even more people.
This is a man who smokes Marlboro cigarettes.
Marlboro cigarettes? Well, I mean, at that point, you could get into, like, any alcohol company. It's technically harming people. I think, like, older cigarette companies that used to get doctors to be like, this is 9 out of 10 doctors approve Marlboro red filters.
In 1954, tobacco conglomerate Philip Morris created the Marlboro Man.
I smoked a cigarette the other day when I went bar hopping.
Most influential marketing campaign in history. Rather than advertising through
it was like a brain worm.
Information, Marlboro advertised.
I know, I deserve the booze.
Through lifestyle. The Marlboro Man was masculine, rugged, and free, unconcerned with non-manly things, like getting cancer. See, in the earlier 1950s, studies began linking smoking to lung cancer and sensing danger. All the top tobacco.
That's 4 now, Joe. What the fuck? I've smoked way more cigars. I've smoked like 12 cigars.
Tobacco CEOs met up at a hotel. They knew they needed to work together, but they also knew advertising alone wouldn't save them, and neither would attacking the anti-smoking research. What they needed to do was take control of the science.
That's different? No, it's not. Everybody goes, well, you inhale cigarettes, you don't inhale cigars, so it's like, it's not as bad. Yeah, cigars also about yay big. a cigarette's like, they're both cancer-causing, like, cancer sticks, right? But one you're inhaling that's this big. Dude, I've smoked a cigar. When I was in the Caribbean, I smoked a cigar that was about that thick and about this long. And that shit stays in your mouth, bro. Having cigar breath is disgusting. Disgusting. I'm not going to sit here and say I didn't enjoy smoking a Cuban, but you smoke a cigar, the next 2 days, you'll wake up and you'll just go, tobacco.
Ran in over 400 newspapers.
It's like beer breath, but like 10 times as worse.
The Tobacco Bros gave a frank statement to
like nauseatingly bad
cigarette smokers, where they cast doubt on the current
tastes like coffee breath, worse. I have coffee breath right now.
Research and announced their very own Tobacco Industry Research Committee, which would be run by scientists of unimpeachable integrity that they hand-selected. The totally unbiased committee worked tirelessly to defend tobacco.
More doctors smoke Camels. You'll feel better when you change to
Philip Morris launched light and low-tar cigarettes to give smokers a safer alternative to quitting. But these products were just as bad, and Philip Morris knew this. They even tweaked the product to make it hit harder by freebasing it, a chemical process you may recognize from things such as crack. They also tried their best to quietly target the youth, saying today's teenager is tomorrow's potential regular customer. But despite their PR efforts, big tobacco.
What country do you think smokes the most? I know Asian countries continue. Years ago, it used to, every country just smoked a lot. I think it's probably France and Japan. I think French people I think it's like 1 out of 3 Frenchmen smoke cigarettes. Ooh, Chinese people do smoke a lot of cigarettes. What country smokes cigarettes the most? Oh, wow. Would have never guessed. I don't think anybody's even typed these. North Macedonia, 39% of adults. Males, 43%. Wait, this is such an interesting... France is up there. This is such an interesting article. North Macedonia, 39% of adults smoke cigarettes. In France, 30%. 28% of women, 31% of men. 66% of men in Timor. Greece is also high. It's, Europe. Palestine, a lot of people. Hungary, Papua New Guinea, Turkey, France, Indonesia. Also, it's a lot of countries with, like, stress, too. It's not just a nicotine addiction. Like, the more, like, shit countries are going through, more people smoke cigarettes. United States, it's 9%. 9.6% of the United States smoke cigarettes. Yeah, it's like middle of Europe, like Eastern Europe, and then Asia. Canada, 8.4%.
In 1994, Congress called them in for questioning in what would become one of the most infamous moments in corporate history.
Let me ask you first, I'd like to just go down the row, yes or no. Do you believe nicotine is not addictive?
I believe nicotine is not addictive, yes.
I don't... Cornball.
I believe that nicotine or our products are addictive.
I believe nicotine is not addictive.
I believe that nicotine is not addictive.
I believe that nicotine is not addictive.
And I too believe that nicotine is not addictive.
But did you notice how they all said believe? This was a legal trick to avoid being punished for lying under oath, and it did work. None of these guys went to jail, but after 2 years of backlash, all of them had lost their jobs. In 2006, a court ruled that Big Tobacco had lied, misrepresented, and deceived the American public in...
Didn't Big Tobacco also get rid of Juuls as a competitor? So then, like, we've introduced also, like, booth market vapes into the business, whereas, like, Juuls are still legal in, or still legal in, like, Europe.
Every way physically possible with little, if any, regard for individual illness and suffering. As punishment, they had to put corrective statements on their packaging. Tobacco still kills...
Dude, I said that whenever we talk about cigarettes, I say it. Dude, in the US, it's still so lackluster. They'll have, like, a small thing that says smoking kills in the US if you buy a pack of cigarettes. If you're in Mexico and you buy a pack of cigarettes, it'll literally be somebody on life support dying. And it'll say fumar equals cancer. No fumar.
Over 7 million people a year. That's over 19,000 a day.
Like, that gets the message across. You see somebody dying on the package.
Philip Morris's Marlboro Man changed the world, but 5 of them are now dead from smoking-related illness.
Wow.
Based off body count alone, Philip Morris may be the most evil company ever. But what if evil was about more than just fatalities? A lot of people accuse the $13 trillion
I called it!
asset management company BlackRock of buying up the single-family housing supply, pricing out normal people from ever owning a home. But they're only directly involved in other forms of real estate. There's a different company that's really buying the house you want, and it's actually the company that created BlackRock, Blackstone. They named it like that just to be annoying. Blackstone is the biggest landlord in the United States, using their infinite money supply from rich investors to swoop up housing specifically after market crashes. To Blackstone, the housing shortage is great news because it gives them pricing power, allowing their rents to grow much faster than inflation and sometimes at double the market rate. Blackstone also formed a company called Invitation Homes that now holds the largest number of single-family rentals in the US.
84,000 homes.
In 2024, they had to refund $48 million for scamming their renters with junk fees and misleading them about eviction policies after the CEO had instructed staff to juice this hog. There are plenty of other turbo landlords outbidding normal people for homes and plenty of other tactics they use to milk their tenants, like monopolistic AI-powered rent pricing services and ignoring repairs. But according to these companies, they're actually the good guys.
If we think the American dream is embodied in a suburban home with a yard and a white picket fence, then I think we're making the American dream much more accessible.
Rent your American dream.
You can rent the American dream.
But to be fair,
why would you want to own the home when you could just pay like $3K a month for it? Like,
of the $2 trillion of US homes sold in 2024, corporate overlords only bought 0.3%. Their purchases are concentrated in certain neighborhoods, so if you're in the Sun Belt or living in a mobile home, you might feel their wrath, but companies like Blackstone didn't create the cost of living crisis. They just found a way to profit off it. But this next company is evil in every possible way. In 1996, Purdue Pharma launched a painkiller called OxyContin. During the release party, Purdue owner and cartoon villain Richard Sackler said the new drug would bring a blizzard of prescriptions that will bury the competition. And he wasn't lying. Purdue launched a massive Oxy marketing campaign with an army of sales reps incentivized with large bonuses. They went over to doctors and falsely claimed that Oxy's addiction risk was less than 1%, and that normal signs of patients being addicted, like asking for higher doses and early refills, didn't mean they were addicted. It meant they were pseudo-addicted, and the solution was a higher dose. Purdue held conferences and flew out thousands of doctors to tell them how awesome OxyContin was, and the drug started bringing in billions. But there was one small problem. In 2001, a prosecutor gave a conservative estimate that Oxy had killed 59 people in his half of the state. Richard Sackler responded to this in a private email, saying, "This is not too bad. It could have been far worse."
Yeah,
It got
everyone could have died. That probably would have been worse.
far worse. More and more people began getting addicted, and oxy overdoses were kind of becoming a serious issue. On top of that, in 2007, Purdue was forced to pay a $600 million fine for false advertising. Richard Sackler's PR strategy of hammering on the abusers in every way possible didn't seem to be working, because by the 2010s, all of this negative publicity was hurting the oxy market, but Purdue had one genius plan to recapture lost sales. They hired McKinsey. McKinsey is a management consulting company. They get paid an insane amount of money to tell businesses what to do. When Walmart hired them in the early 2000s, they told the company to cut costs by dropping employee benefits. When they worked with Allstate Insurance, they invented the legendary deny button. So needless to say, McKinsey and Purdue Pharma were the perfect match. McKinsey cooked up what they called the OxyContin Sales Engine Turbocharge Plan. It involved advertising how Oxy reduces stress while countering the emotional messages from mothers with teenagers that overdosed. McKinsey also suggested giving refunds to pharmacies for every customer who got addicted. But even Purdue was like, bro, come on, that's too far. There's no way you just said that. With McKinsey's help, Purdue went on a generational marketing run, and opioids were printing them money. But by 2019, they were
Wait, they were legally allowed to get prescription opioids for like back pain, treatment of chronic
on a
pain.
generational marketing run, and opioids
Just fucking geeked off opioids.
were printing them money. But by 2019, they were facing some lawsuits. 1,000 lawsuits. This is not too bad. It could have been far worse. $2 trillion of lawsuits.
Why do you think so many old people had issues with pills? A variety of reasons. I mean, like, it's not just... It was. I don't think it was just from Purdue. I think it's also just like, yeah, you have a problem. You get prescription drugs. Like right now, if you have surgery, you still get prescription opioids. You can get addicted to them. And then also like people coming back from war. I think it was a mixture of things. Obviously, I think it was majority this company. But like a lot of people that came back from like the Vietnam War were like turbo addicted to drugs because you got drafted. You were in a high stress scenario, just constantly high out of your mind to just deal with it.
Declared bankruptcy, and in 2020 they were found guilty for conspiracy to defraud the United States and offering illegal kickbacks to doctors. They reached a $7.4 billion settlement with $6.5 to be paid.
Facts so fucked up. I mean, that's why like people talk. I mean, when people talk about the draft right now, like if that were ever to get in place, I don't know, it would be bad, bro. That, and then they also had fragging problems, which is where you kill your fucking allies. Like people in Vietnam would like kill their friends, like losing their minds. I'm dodging. Oh, I'm fucking 100. If I ever get drafted, I am not going. I am not going. A conscientious objector, if that doesn't work, I'll just fucking eat the prison sentence. Like, yeah, fuck that. I think they're on crack if they think they could actually draft anyone in the United States that's Gen Z. Also, I'm on the later. If you're 20, you're first to go. The way a draft would work is if you're 20 years old, you would be the first drafted. They go 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 19, 18. So they go 20 to 25 and then they jump back if they get through everybody.
They'll be fine. The supplier of the raw ingredients for the opioids was actually a name you might recognize. Johnson & Johnson, the company known for bangers like putting asbestos in baby powder.
I just turned 20. That sucks.
Aggressively selling cancer-worsening drugs and making the Wish.com version of the COVID vaccine. They had to pay $5 billion. A few other opioid pushers added another 21, and McKinsey paid $650 million. No one from these companies went to jail, except for one guy at McKinsey for obstructing justice. Not only did these companies' schemes cost hundreds of thousands of lives, but they also permanently damaged trust in the entire industry. If you wonder why people are skeptical of medicine and pharma, this is why. Purdue is the most evil company of the modern age, but to find the most evil company ever,
there's something at what is the most evil company ever?
We need to go back in time. Spices are something you take for granted today, but back in the 1600s, they were the ultimate status symbol. Displaying your spices was like displaying gold bars, but their supply mostly came from a handful of islands in Indonesia, and the Dutch wanted in on this. So they went to their top merchants.
You know, most of the cinnamon, sorry, it just made me think of that. You know, most of the cinnamon that you actually consume in a given day isn't actually cinnamon. It's like a cheaper alternative, still from like a route of sorts, but it's, oh, the Silk Road. You know, a company.
I mostly came from a handful of islands in Indonesia, and the Dutch wanted in on this. So they went to their top merchants and said, here's how we're getting those spices. All you guys will merge together to form one massive company. We'll call it the Dutch East India Company. And for funding, we'll get a bunch of investors to pull together money for you. In exchange, they'll get a piece of your bounty, your supply, your stock. Yes, we'll call it stock. They'll own stock in your company. All right, now that we invented capitalism, go conquer Indonesia. Sure. Oh wait, one more thing. You want to use the army? In 1621, the Dutch East India Company massacred 90% of the Bandanese population. Then they enslaved all the survivors, which was only like 1,000 people, so they imported more slaves from all around the world to run their spice monopoly. They went on to conquer the majority of Indonesia, take Sri Lanka for its cinnamon, and run up a colony in South Africa, all while destroying entire villages and burning down rival crops to keep their market dominance. These brutal conquests gave the Dutch all the spices they ever wanted, but the British wanted in on this too. So they started the British East India Company and conquered India with an army bigger than Britain's actual army. Then they started selling opium to China, which led to mass addiction. China was like, stop. The British East India Company was like, back in India, after facing 100 years of land seizures, economic destruction, and racism, the locals revolted. The British East India Company destroyed this rebellion with mass executions and village burnings. But their atrocities were becoming a bit too mainstream, so Britain dissolved the company in 1874 and took control of India itself. The East India Companies were uniquely evil. Other companies used slave labor, but the East Indias ran their entire empire on it. Some companies
ran their entire empire and also slaughtered the majority of the people that lived in those areas.
Invade countries, but the East Indias destroyed countries. Modern corporations run aggressive pharmaceutical sales tactics, but the East Indias did it first. But all of these companies have one thing in common. They were driven by the exact same pursuit.
Stocks. They invented that.
It's a pursuit that's done incredible things for humanity, but go too far, and humanity pays the price. The two most evil companies ever are long gone now, but the endless pursuit of profit is very much alive.
I'm actually going to say that was one of the best videos I think I've ever watched on stream. I think Jack Pockets is the most underrated YouTuber that I've seen this year. It's not even close. My God. TikTok for single-handedly frying the attention span of generations to come. Yeah, honorable mention, not on the list. Like, these companies are objectively worse. All right, yo, I'm going to go piss real quick, and then we're going to hop into the next video.